clip where it says this YouTuber hates straight people.
Yes, that is rape piercings.
Jesus Christ, why? Don't do that.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Smudcast number 658. Lowercase conservatives hate fun and grogu. I'm assuming she's referring to the Mandalorian.
Baby Yoda, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how she has that data. Maybe she's referring to a specific commentator who's conservative that said something about the Mandalorian sucking, which is most people, regardless of political stripe. So it's nothing fancy, nothing new we haven't heard from the people at large regarding the Mandalorian show and most of the other Star Wars shows. So no biggie there. This video we're going to be covering came out, let me check, 2 weeks ago, has about 2,000 views by the user Qiwi, and this is one of her other channels. Her original channel, I believe, is, what is it called?
The Queer Kiwi.
The Queer Kiwi. Yeah, I don't know why she made this channel. It seems to be exactly the same as her main channel. Maybe there's something going on we're missing. Maybe this is more about media. But as I go down both channels, they seem pretty much just her random thoughts on random topics. So good for her. Either way, it's a 25 minute video. We're obviously not going to take that long going through it all. Either she's very boring or she rambles, and we'll pick up on that rather quickly. And I have a feeling this is not very scripted either way. So we'll find out whether we can tolerate her. If we can, we will keep going. If not, as always, we'll just stop. So, well, you guys, I hope we're ready to go. Yeah, no subtitles. And away we go.
Hello, friends. This is either the first
I'm
video
not your
I've posted
friend,
on here
pal.
for a long time, or it's the second video I posted on here recently, and I gave an explanation about why in the last video, which you should watch, or the next video, which you should watch. If you want the explanation for where I've been, I don't have an explanation. I've been on the main channel, you know that. Anyway, I need to stop blabbing. I took my meds ages ago. I've been procrastinating.
Okay.
Oh no! Already, just barely 30 seconds in.
British one.
So she is rambling. We know she's on medication. She has multicolored hair, tattoos.
Her nails are colored. Her hair looks like a candy cane.
She's that disgusting flag on the
Yeah, well, that's
whatever that is.
That's expected, I'd imagine.
She's surrounded by Smug plushies.
Yeah. Anyway, fine, whatever. Let's get to the arguments. We'll just keep going. Actually, you know what? We'll speed up the video. That's probably the best idea. Put it to 1.25. There we go. Okay. I feel better now.
They've worn off now, so here I am. Anyway, yeah, this is the second channel. Hello. This is just kind of where I do stuff that I don't think will fit on the main channel. So like just before I did a live stream of going through Am I the Asshole? And that is going to be a video that is going to be uploaded. And if you want to catch a live stream of me going through shit, then you can go to patreon.com/SaltyCat, and I will be doing more of those there. But today we're doing something different. This time we're doing something a little bit different. It's not that different. We're watching a Matt Walsh video. But the subject matter is a little bit different. So to give a little bit of background here, Matt Walsh uploaded a video that's titled Star Wars is Garbage. And the thumbnail is the new Mandalorian episode with Lizzo and Jack Black, and it says, stop watching this crap. And I have a bunch of things to say.
Okay, I think, as I said before, everyone thinks Star Wars is pretty much garbage. So, there are some episodes of either shows, some scenes in a few movies that are pretty good, but no, the writers are not pulling their weight. They don't know what they're doing. They're running off nostalgia. I think they're doing their best with what they can work with, what was popular back in the day, and they're trying to bring it back. It doesn't work too well when you're making a long form of entertainment or episodic. It loses its charm, especially when you start throwing in random celebrities for cameos.
Don't you want to see a Star Wars character on a desert planet for the 18th time?
well, who happens to be Lizzo and is a queen, and she has horrible lines, and she's there for, I don't know. I saw the clip and I was like, what is this scene? What is the point of this scene? Why do you have it here? So there's a lot of questionable things in these shows, and you can only stretch a space opera's believability with technology and culture and human behavior so much. You can get away with it when it's like, I don't know, some scenes in Star Trek maybe, or The Fifth Element, where it's all sort of up in the air and futuristic world with flying cars. How does that work? Like, you can get away with some of that. But a slow-moving show like The Mandalorian, no, it has to be more concise. It has to make more sense, unfortunately.
I heard people liked Andor. That's about it.
Yeah, apparently that was well-paced and had some good episodes. So
Problem is nobody watched it.
Isn't it just a prequel to Rogue One?
Yes.
Why even bother? You know they're gonna die.
This is a good point. Kind of like you want to know how Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader, and you're like, I don't want to know how Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader anymore. It was that bad. So,
Well, what the benefit of the prequels have is that it's a lot more than just how did Darth Vader come about. Like, you got all the Clone Wars, you got the Sith, like, you got all the droids, you got all the politics setting up the real star, that being Palpatine / Sidious. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's more than just here's the story of Anakin's fall. Whereas with Andor, you only really get the story of, well, Andor as far as I'm aware. And Andor is like the least, well, he's not the least interesting, but he's pretty uninteresting throughout Rogue One. As far as I understand, Andor the show does not expand on his character as far as the Rogue One movie is concerned.
yeah, so it's more based on world building and other characters and their plots and how it all connects and makes some sense, which is kind of the opposite of a Star Wars or a sci-fi space opera, because those are supposed to be fun and exciting, and we're not supposed to dilly-dally around with technology and explaining things. It's all supposed, you have a blaster, you have a lightsaber, you have a spaceship. We don't need to go into like warp drive fields and all these other technical things you would expect on a hard science fiction show like Star Trek. So
They just give you the bare bones so that the plot can keep moving.
yeah, it's all to give you a futuristic, fun setting, and then allow the drama to play out the way it does. Whereas Star Trek is like, what happens when the transporter malfunctions? Oh, you get a duplicate, or you get trapped in the buffer, or whatever. Like that's a science fiction issue.
You get trapped in the buffer, and then the weird things show up.
Yeah,
That was try to eat your soul.
they look like worms, and Barkley has to pull them out. Like that's a science fiction plot for a short story that got turned into an episode of Star Trek. So that's where science fiction was made popular on TV, at least. And then we have all kinds of other shows that sort of try and do that. And then you have Star Wars, which is not science fiction. It's sci-fi. It's space opera. It's its own little thing. And when you slow it down, yes, you world build, but you start explaining things, it's like, wait a second, this is no longer why we're here. And I think that could get weird for some people. The same way you watch a Star Trek movie, which are always hit and miss, mostly miss, because they feel like something else. Like Star Trek is not supposed to be bombastic and action-packed and fight choreographied and all these other action film style events. It's supposed to be slow and boring and dramatic with very low, almost Shakespearean-like events. Like that's why we see Captain Kirk with William Shatner, who's a Shakespearean actor. You see the same with Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart. Like they're all coming from the same denomination.
Then you hard cut to Star Trek Picard, where Picard gets run over by a car.
And then Worf starts decapitating people, and they're throwing meteorites at starships, and it's like, what?
Isn't there a ninja in Picard that throws ninja stars at people?
No, but he has a sword. He also decapitates people.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, Eleanor. That was not what I was expecting. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
I haven't even done a long video yet. I expect myself to be here for a very long time because I'm gonna get real ranty. I'm gonna have a lot to say about this. But yeah, no, for some background, Kat, if you don't know Kat, where have you been? Kat is my flatmate, my best friend. She captions all my videos. She works with me. Kat.
Don't care.
There's no captions on this video, so Kat sucks, but never mind.
She is a massive, massive Star Wars fan. She's been into Star Wars like her whole life. She started watching with her dad when she was a kid, so she's very invested in the Star Wars universe. She's watched everything.
Why should we care?
Back in November, December, I said I'd watch with her and I'd get into the universe a little bit. So I have spent the past several months watching literally everything. I've consumed everything. I've watched all of the movies twice, and then I've seen all of the TV shows. I've watched Andor twice.
So you're a fake Star Wars fan, is what you're saying. You just randomly just got into it because your friend was into it.
I don't want to say that she's fake, per se, because you can randomly get introduced to a series. Like, I randomly got introduced to Gundam back in 2017. I started watching through it in same year. Like, just started going through them. Like, it can happen. Despite the fact that it's so massive in the cultures that are adjacent to you, you might never take the leap.
Well, you're talking about anime and manga. Like, that's massive to begin with, so there's nothing wrong. Plus, Gundam is so diverse. It's different every season, if not every year. So that's fine. That's like, you're going to miss all kinds of anime. There's all kinds of anime I bet you've never seen that's super popular. So,
that's what I was about to say, is that it's odd that she's never seen anything Star Wars related.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, wait a second. You've never watched episode 4 or heard of it or seen a clip here and there?
You've never seen I Am Your Father?
Yeah, like this is a cultural movie phenomenon. I don't expect women to care, but this is what I mean. It's like, oh, my best friend watches it. Now I'm going to watch it. It's like, so you're watching it because of your best friend, or is there something you like that caused you to be into it? Because when you're a kid and you play with games or you play toys or you play outside, you're naturally inclined to the imagination. And when you see spaceships and dinosaurs and ghosts and cool, like, you're like, whoa, what's that? I want to go watch that. That's natural. That's just, you're naturally into things that are imaginative. This feels like I'm gonna just spend all this time watching movies of this franchise. It's like, imagine if you sat down and you've never watched a thing about Harry Potter, but your friend was into it. So I'm just gonna sit down and watch all of Harry Potter because I have nothing better to do with my time. And you're like, okay, do you even like it? I mean, they're not bad films, but still, is that part of your interest now? Like, suddenly, because your best friend said so? Are you that easily influenced? Maybe women are different. I don't know. Let's just keep going.
And I watch The Mandalorian week by week as well. The only ones I haven't watched are the animated ones, and right now we're watching The Bad Batch. So I'm almost all caught up on everything, right? I know this lore. Me and Kat have conversations about it.
Hold up. So you haven't watched the... Nice positive frame. You haven't watched the animated ones yet? Like Star Wars Clone Wars from 2003, Star Wars The Clone Wars. But you're watching The Bad Batch, which is a sequel to the animated Star Wars The Clone Wars.
The assumption is she's already watched all of that stuff, and now she's at the Clone Wars or at the Bad Batch, because that's the latest animation, I think.
Yeah, that's why. But she said she hasn't watched all the animation stuff. She's just getting through The Bad Batch.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm getting
Why would you
conflicting
do
signals
that?
here.
I don't know.
Why would you do that?
It's
Hello, by the way.
Hi.
Hello.
It's like she's trying to just catch up with her friend so she could have conversations with her, like when girls read books. It's like, oh, I read this cool book. Let me read it. It's okay. It's part of like a 12-part series. Let me read the last one. It's like, all right.
Oh, that's why she has the bullshit rainbow. She doesn't know about anything else.
Apparently, I have no
That
idea.
makes sense.
We're a bit
Just
confused.
read the latest thing and pretend that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. All right. Here is the Copper Owl. Thank you, sir. Lizzie did a great job as Rata the Hutt, like twins. She's not a Hutt, is she? I don't think so. Anyway, let's keep going. She hasn't made a point yet, but we're getting there. She's building up the story. We're like, ooh, how'd you get into Star Wars? My roommate told me. It's like, okay.
All the time, so I know about it because I've gotten very invested.
No, you didn't.
Personally am really, really enjoying The Mandalorian. I really, really love that show.
Really?
We went to Disneyland. We got this little grogu light stick thing.
What
He's
is
terrifying.
that?
You turn him on and he makes this like...
What an uncomfortable sound.
What was that?
That doesn't sound adorable at all.
It sounds like you're strangling a squeaky toy.
Is that a rattle? A baby rattle? I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know, but
She said it's a light stick. I don't know what a light stick is.
Okay.
It's like those crack lights you have at like concerts.
No, I think it's one of those things you press the button, the thing just spins around, and it just makes lights, I guess.
I'm assuming there's a Disneyland in the UK, or she went to Florida. I don't know. I really don't know. That's fine.
I will not allow this person in Florida.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
I know I just joined, but this woman seems like the condensed version of what fake fan means.
That's what I sort of had that implication when I said she feels like a fake fan because she just started watching Star Wars like last few months because her crib mate is a huge Star Wars fan, so she just started watching it because her friend was into it. It's like, okay, that's not a good reason, but whatever.
And she watched the last thing. Did she watch the original trilogy?
She didn't say that. We don't know.
So that's probably a no.
We're assuming it was all the Netflix crap.
She would probably have mentioned that.
Or the
if
Disney
she
Plus
did.
crap, sorry. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. It seems a bit weird. But women do this. They just get into stuff because other women are into it. It's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's not really interest.
Exactly.
That's just
my friend was into
just
it, so now I am.
imitation.
Yeah, we have something to talk about now. Anyway.
Sounds like going for way too long, and I want him to just light up without making the terrifying sounds, but I don't know how to do that, so he just stays unlit because I hate it. It's scary, and I'm also drinking water out of my fucking grogu fucking water bottle.
Oh my
Anyways,
god,
That's not a
she
water
has
bottle.
Grogu light, Grogu
Cut.
water bottle.
That water
Grogu
bottle.
stays
consume.
unlit because I hate it. It's scary, and I'm also
Talk
drinking
about
water
social
out of my-
contagion.
That is like, I've seen my niece when she was 6 have a water bottle.
Oh Christ, you're right. What's with that fucking design?
This is what people drink out of water or drink water out of now these days. Like I don't know.
I use cola
Buying
bottles.
the water bottle merchandise for 5-year-olds doesn't make you a fan. That just
Yeah.
makes you a weird wine mom being into a kids thing.
Okay, anyway, it's whatever. She likes buying merch. Good for her. I don't.
Which I think is I think she is the target audience.
An adult who doesn't know any better.
Yeah, well, that's what the baby design appeals to. It's not for children. It's for childless wine moms
who have no taste and just consume new product and
consume thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe.
It's like, yeah.
I'm sure she has other water bottles or other glasses in her house, but buy what you like, lady. Whatever makes you happy.
fucking water bottle. Anyway, I really like The Mandalorian. I think it's a great time. I'm having a lot of fun watching it. I look forward to it every week.
Wow.
But in this past episode, a lot of people, especially conservatives, had a massive issue with it. And it's so fucking funny. It's so weird. I really liked this last episode. If you don't know, it was just a fun episode. The show's just a fun show. The
Can you
objective
say
of the show has
what-
changed a little bit because the initial purpose was find the child, protect the child, find the Jedi, give child to Jedi, and that's not it anymore. They were reunited, so it's a different theme of the show. And every episode has been a full story. So in this episode, they just kind of went on a little adventure. Grogu got a babysitter, which was Lizzo, and they went on an adventure. And it was great. It was a good time. We got a full story in one episode, and it still aided towards the overall story.
No, that's the episodes were all kind of like that, and they were all similarly useless. This was filler crap.
Yeah, this was.
I was just
What's
There
his
was
name?
the thing with Jack Black and I forgot the name, Doc Brown.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yes,
Well, this
Yes,
is
and
sort of,
the episode was horribly written, even for Mandalorian standards.
This was the joke that I think a lot of people thought that Favreau could like piss off Disney. He could write crap or just do crap, and then he goes back to doing what he normally does. It was the one, like, people are like, "What the hell is this?"
That episode encompassed because the Mandalorian started out like a stoic character in the very, very first episode of the first season. And after that,
there's a deeper layer to him.
Now it's not a deeper layer. Now he's just some apathetic, depressed guy who has no personality and no drive, and he's just there like a player character in a video game whose player forgot to keep playing.
Just one AFK permanently.
All right. Well,
Yeah, and it's how he talks and how he goes through quests. There's no emotion in the sense of depression in him.
plus he just
Not in the sense of stoicism, but in I am here now, I talk to you, I say a line, let's get to the next scene, I do a thing, I go to the next scene, I say a thing, and that's it.
well,
I am aghast.
one of the jokes is that Pedro Pascal's not getting paid as much for The Mandalorian as he is for The Last of Us, and they might even drop him as the main story character because he doesn't do much anyway. He just has a mask on the entire time. Anyone could do that job.
Please,
Smart
because it's
Boy.
got worse. He was okay in the first season. The acting seemed fine, but in this one, he's overacting. I don't know whether that's him or whether that's the direction he's been given.
Oh no,
but
Wisp,
he's just randomly bobbing his helmet all the time, like some
Wisp,
bobblehead. It's
Smart
horrible.
Wisp. You guys don't understand. That's not Pascal under the helmet. That's a stunt double.
All the
He
time.
does all in this season. Yeah, he is not on set. He just voices all the lines and has somebody else do the acting for him.
Oh, that's why it's so out of sync.
It's lame.
Because somebody else is trying to pretend to be him saying the lines.
Yeah, but
Right.
he's also waving his arms around way too much, and nothing fits. It's horrible.
What, Pedro can't just stand there, have his face covered up for like a minute or two,
What an arrogant prick.
Anyway, good for him for getting a better job, I guess. So anyway, 4 minutes in, we're still waiting on some. I do appreciate the background, so we know how, well, good or bad, how she got into Star Wars. But we're still waiting for whatever she's trying to say. Here we go.
Back to Mandalore. So overall, I had a good time, but people are racist and sexist and fatphobic.
There is no.
How did we get here?
People are racist, sexist, and fatphobic.
No, she's just a horrible person.
How did we get from I love this show and then people are racist, sexist, and fatphobic?
Oh, that was fast.
This is why people hate stupid bints like you who don't have anything inside their skull.
So, okay, let's say I watch a dumb anime, right? It's fun. I know it's fun. I know it's stupid. I don't think much of it. I then don't suddenly go around and saying, if you don't like it, you're racist, you're fatphobic, and all these other dumb things. Because it's a dumb show. The Mandalorian is not a smart show. It doesn't make you think. It doesn't make you go, oh, wow, that's interesting. It makes you go...
It could have been the ultimate space cowboy thing.
Sure, but it's stupid. It's not to make you think. So if you watch Star Wars and go, oh, I love it, it's so much fun, it's like, that's great. You're 4. You're a little girl, and you like flashy things, and that's great. You can enjoy flashy things. No one's judging you for that. But you don't turn around and say, oh, all the conservatives that disagree with me are all these negatives, because that's...
No, everyone who disagrees with me is a conservative.
Oh, that's the same thing as everyone who disagrees with me is
That's what she
evil
does.
or a Nazi or whatever.
Yeah.
Pick a term. Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's why this horrible, stupid new rainbow with the triangle of death next to her appeals to so much to her, because that incorporates all of that. It's shiny, it grabs her attention. It's like dangling keys,
Yeah.
and it gives her all the excuses to be mean to anyone who disagrees with her and her acquired opinions, because she came to not the single thing that happens between her ears is of her own making. It's all just copy pasted thoughts and opinions of other people.
I'm also getting a little tired of people who don't find fat people attractive, call them fat phobic. We're not scared of fat people. That's ridiculous.
I'm afraid. No, Smudge, you don't understand. I'm afraid of the people that can't get up the stairs.
I mean, if you want to eat yourself to 500 pounds, I really don't care. I'm not really scared of you unless you're walking down the street and there's a space issue. But no, you live your life, buddy. Lizzo, good on you. You're making money doing bad acting jobs. I don't really care. So no, we're not scared of fat phobic people. We just don't find you attractive. That's all.
And to demand people find you attractive out of the blue, that is one of the worst types of narcissism possible.
Oh, the one that...
Because you demand that people love you and want to hump you.
Yeah,
While at the same time, you will probably call them sexist or something for finding you attractive.
Yeah,
so it's a double bind.
The one that I find a little scary is if you're a guy, there should be no problems of dating a trans woman or something. I was like, whoa, what are you talking about? How could you possibly come to that conclusion that because guys don't want to date other guys who identify as women is
and are just not even fertile?
Well, I mean,
look, the main reason why people hump each other is to make children. That's not with the conscious intent to do that, but that's why nature made it fun. That's nature's way to trick you into making children. That's why you find people attractive. And with some people, well, something went wrong in the brain, pattern recognition does the wrong thing, and you're attracted to something that you can't actually make children with. But technically, that's what the process is for. That's why it's fun.
Anyway, I find these arguments silly, but she just jumped so fast to this. She must have said this a lot during her other channel, or in general, to just accuse conservatives of being sexist and racist and all this other crap. So anyway, now we know where she's at. I was not expecting it to come out this quickly all at once, unfortunately. So anyway, let's keep going.
So that Lizzo was there. They're like, fucking fat black woman was on Star Wars. What the heck is...
The problem is that this is a disgusting artist.
It's not. Hold up. It's not fat black woman is on Star Wars. It's fat black talentless woman is on Star Wars.
Who makes money on being disgusting, rubbing her naked flesh into the camera.
If she was having a good performance, if she was doing something dramatic, something that had some substance, something I was like, hey, wow, they got a star power here. What can she do? Oh, she could say dumb lines and have a dumb part for the sake of Jon Favreau just putzing around. That's not fun. That's silly.
The only way I heard of this woman existing in the first place is because she got a cultural artifact, a flute of one of the presidents, and played that on stage in some way while being almost naked and just being generally disgusting. And that seems like just cultural defilement for I don't know what the right word here is. Outrage points. So to be deliberately outrageous in order to get attention, not because she's any good, and that is what puts people off.
Oh, right. It's that woman that takes advantage of ancient history and culture.
Yeah. If a super sexy woman had done that, that would still be questionable.
Well, I remember when I was watching Thor Ragnarok, and that show is half comedy, half drama. So there's a bunch of other stuff in there as well. And
Movie.
Yeah, it's a movie. I recall Matt Damon was playing the fake Loki, which was not a pantomime, but it's a play within a play. It's like they're acting out the thing that happened in the previous film or whatever they were doing. So like, hey, it's got Matt Damon, and he's hamming up the role of another character from the same show. That's funny. That's a joke. That's tongue in cheek. We get it. It doesn't matter if he does an amazing job or he hams it up even more or he falls off a cliff and dies. The whole point is to be goofy. So if that's the point, then it doesn't matter how ridiculous the performance is or how accurate or maybe it's super serious. It's like, okay, this is kind of funny now because they're changing the tone. But that's supposed to be that way. In Mandalorian, you can't take it seriously when they're trying to be serious. The tone is obvious. And when you have we're the leaders of this this group of we're kingdom of this, and you're like, really, Matt? These two people, Jack Black and Lizzo, that's the two you got? Okay.
Playing Space Crockett or whatever that was.
I don't know. It was so unbelievable. You just sit there going, no, this is dumb.
It looked like a failed attempt at making an Orville episode.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, it felt like it was trying to be funny in a serious scenario. That's what I was getting at. The tone was off. And you look at these guys, you're like, you don't belong in this setting, in this world. It doesn't work. It could have. They could have worked it, but it did not work, unfortunately. Anyway.
It's all. So I'm assuming that's Matt Walsh's perspective. I'm assuming Matt Walsh has a lot of bad Star Wars takes. A lot of conservative men have a lot of bad Star Wars takes. So I'm intrigued to know what he says. So yeah, let's get into it. I've been talking for like 10 minutes. I've started ranting before even clicking on the video. I don't even know what he said, but I'm offended.
The Mandalorian recently surprised fans with 2 cameo guest appearances, Lizzo and Jack Black. The clip of this episode, the scene with Lizzo, went viral. Let's just watch a little bit of this.
Despicable. If that isn't the Quacta calling the Stifling slimy.
I beg your pardon.
This planet is unrecognizable since he arrived.
I had a feeling you hated me.
I'm disappointed in you, Commissioner. You served my family well. But Captain Bombardier is the love of my life, and I know his heart is true. Sure, he's made some mistakes in the past, but who here among us has not? Is there no room for a little bit of forgiveness?
Yeah, this is how you react to your husband. You tap him on the shoulder. He's the love of my life. It's like, sure.
Wouldn't you put your arm a little further than just the right shoulder, or on the left?
Yeah, the whole thing didn't look like Star Wars. It looked like the iPad Star Trek joke version of it. That's why I'm saying Orville. And it's just like a bad soap opera.
Yeah, exactly. A bad. It is melodrama, obviously, because it's space opera, but it's just like, this is the love of your life, really.
It looks like a failed joke imitation of Star Wars.
Yeah.
You mean the holiday special?
The holiday special did actually feel like Star Wars.
It was just really bad quality.
Yeah, but it had a vibe to it. This doesn't. The Mandalorian doesn't have that. It's
fair point.
What I think with the by the last 2 episodes somewhere I got this idea that the Mandalorian is like not a meal, but Favreau, Filoni, I keep mixing up the two because they did the Clone Wars together. They didn't make a meal, but instead they have all the ingredients to make a meal and put them all on the table. And the spice that's still on that's in the spice shelf.
Yeah, I would say,
and then they show you, then they send you a photograph of all the ingredients on the table, and then tell you have a great meal.
I think it's worse than that. I think they actually do serve you something that is sold as a steak, but you get it. It's popcorn with salt and sugar. You don't know what you're tasting. It's like, is this supposed to be sweet? I thought it was supposed to be salty. And they give you a little bit of butter sometimes. Oh, that tastes good. And then it goes back to being confusing and bland. And you're just like, I don't know what I'm eating. Is there substance to this?
But popcorn is not steak.
I know, but we were sold on steak and we're eating popcorn with no substance or food with no substance. It's weird. And I only watched a few episodes and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know who this is for anymore.
Yeah, this is not. It's not an act. I don't know how else to put it. That's why I came up with this metaphor. It doesn't feel like an actual show.
And then
it feels like the outline of a show.
And then there's the Book of Boba Fett, which is, I mean, even more confusing. Like,
it's just the same. It's like he's still making season 1 to 3 episodes of the Clone Wars show, which is fine because that's 20 minutes kids cartoon. But now it's stretched out to an hour, allegedly made for adults, somehow, because you have a little bit of gore or something in there, and explosions and death, technically, but it's also off screen, so technically it's still a show for 6-year-olds. And there's just as little happening, and there's plot holes, and the characters don't make sense, and it's just pushed forward. It's just plot thing happens, and then plot thing happens, and then plot thing happens. There's no real meat to it. There's no character to it. It's the bones. It's the bones of the steak that's sold to you as the steak.
All right, here is the Copperell again. The hut costume is good, but they don't speak basic. Okay, all right, I get it. Yeah, when you say when you're a monarch or a leader, and it's a marriage relationship, and you say, this is my love of my life, you hold their hand. You get close to them, or you're dignified the way you say it. You don't just like appeal to, I love this man. It's like, okay, you don't.
Yeah, but it fits because this is how these SJW narcissists think relationships work. By stating the thing is real,
exactly.
Not by actually doing the thing.
If you're a dignified, powerful person, you usually don't have to say much to proclaim the truth. It kind of rolls off you. And this does not feel like these people have any sort of background or This guy looks like he's just a stand-in. And Lizzo is just sort of there. It does not feel regal to me. Anyway, we're
the episode of Red Dwarf, where they are on the AI space station, had a similar iPad look, Apple look to it, and it felt more realistic and plastic, grippable than any of this stuff. This is so clinical.
Let's go.
I am sorry to have disappointed you, my lady. Perhaps someday I can earn such forgiveness from your grace.
Perhaps.
Even that sounds weird from Christopher Lloyd. As good as his voice is, that sounds like he's hamming it up too. Like it sounds fake.
Yeah. I'd say Christopher Lloyd is actually acting here, and Lizzo, she sounds like the average non-acting fat woman who's reading lines from a sign held up in front of her. She's not acting. She can't. It's horrible.
You must live in exile on the moon of Paraquat.
All right.
And as for you,
I don't understand the problem. I don't know what he's about to say, but I'm really confused.
It's because you're shallow and incapable of understanding human emotion.
I think she just doesn't know good acting at all. She just is blinded by, I like show good. What problem?
I just think it's ironic that the character Lizzo plays is, just what about forgiveness on my husband? And meanwhile, she's sending Christopher Lloyd to the fucking moon. Okay, what happened about this forgiveness talk? I got you.
Yeah, it's
forgiveness for thee, but not for me.
It's a tough sell. This show, when the believability goes out the door, you're like, flaw. All these flaws start popping up, and this lady has no idea what she's talking about. Watch actual movies. Watch actual television with drama, with characters that sound and look and walk and talk believably. That's it. Then you look at this show and go, yeah, Lizzo's not even remotely like a queen.
or at least real people.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. If she was a down to earth person, a queen, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd go for that.
Is it a white man apologizing to a black woman? Is that what the problem's going to be? I don't know what has warranted his response to be like, I'm very curious. I'm sorry I posted.
This is no different.
You're a very prejudiced woman.
This is no different than a 6-year-old not understanding the grown-ups table conversation. What is mommy and daddy getting angry about? I don't understand. It's like, you're 6. You can't understand. You have no idea what you're listening to.
But I'm as smart as the adults. I want to drive a car and drink beer.
Response. I'm just like baffled. Let's see what he has to say. Let's see the problem with.
Oh, by the way, she's also on medication right now. In case you guys don't know, you forgot.
What?
Oh yeah, within the first 30 seconds, she said, "Oh yeah, this is my second channel. I'm taking medication. Don't worry."
What?
Yeah, so she's on medication.
Did she say what about?
No. We have no idea. We can guess though. Anyway, let's just keep going.
This any problems in.
Who's watching
Lady
the show?
Bo-Katan Creed.
Me. I'm watching this, and I'm having a fucking jolly good time. You don't have to watch it. You can fuck off. Stop ruining my fun show, right? If you don't want to watch.
Wait a second.
I watched it. I like Star Wars. I hate this.
Are you offended?
You're a fake fan. You're an idiot. You have nothing between your ears. You only like it because your friend likes it.
If I was watching Picard Season 3 for fun, I would not care if other critics were saying it was garbage. I would just watch it and go, this is a fun show. And that would be that. But you are somehow offended by a guy you
They are ruining it, Smut. They're ruining it for you.
Oh no, somebody doesn't like the thing I like. Therefore, I feel invalidated about my own opinion about whether I like this or not and have to think about whether this is actually worth liking or not. So I just defend my original stance of liking it that I can't explain because I actually only like it because my friend likes it and I don't want to contradict my friend because we're friends.
Well, this is like me not knowing that I have guilty pleasures like watching Smallville or episodes of Angel or whatever those dumb shows I used to watch. And
Smallville was supposed to be a guilty pleasure?
Oh god, it's so dumb. It's unbelievably stupid at times. But it's dramatic because you like Superman, you like the story, you like the setting, you like the characters. But Freak of the Week got old within the first season and they just kept dragging it out. But either way, it's like me not being aware of what good drama is or good storytelling is, or just neglecting hundreds of years worth of literary stories and plays and going, well, clearly this is the best thing in the world. How can not anyone enjoy this? It's like because season 7 and 8 were trash and like entire seasons were garbage. Like there's so many bad things in silly shows aimed at teenagers. They appeal to a different demographic. They're not as intelligent. They're not as believable.
And they wouldn't need to be not
fine.
as intelligent.
Yeah,
they wouldn't need to be. They assume that because our target audience is young, we don't need to make sense because the young audience is stupid.
Yeah, I'm not expecting like
and that's a fallacy.
Great drama from manga and anime that's geared towards kids. I'm not expecting that. So I accept the fact that, if you want to watch Sailor Moon, go for it. But it's not like super amazing, dramatic, and the characters are so rich and colorful and twists and turns. Like, no, it's just a freaking shoujo manga.
Yeah, but surprisingly enough, we do get actually good drama from some kids anime.
I will.
That is so much more well written and deeply written and emotionally gripping you written than this.
Yeah, I will admit parts of Sailor Moon are actually pretty good. And that's with every show. The same with Smallville. There's all kinds of drama in there. Mostly
the key example I bring up for this is because it ran on German television, and that's so how I saw some episodes of that was a magical girl anime called Doremi. So it's the girls do become witches in quotation marks. But the magical girl version, and there's the introverted girl. If it was Sailor Moon, it would be Amy, I guess, the water girl,
right.
And she is secretly in love with a boy from the soccer team. The soccer boy he gets injured in the training match before the big game. and so he wouldn't be able to play. And she wants to cast a healing spell, and since they're all in training, they don't know how all of this works. And she is then told, well, healing magic doesn't actually work, at least not the way you'd want it to. It's just that we can only transfer injuries. So, and since she's a good character, she decides to do it anyway and transfer his leg injury to herself. Can't reveal that because, well, secret magical girl stuff. And so he can play the soccer game. He's super happy about it, and she limps home into the sunset. And that's a show for 5 to 6, 7-year-old girls. And that has so much more emotional grip than any of the Mandalorian with the little baby puppet.
Yeah, it's surprising how good the manga writers or the mangakas are in doing basic drama and virtue in their hero characters. And having, even if the episode or the comic is not about that as a whole, they do these little heroic elements to make it as if, how do you project a character as a hero when they're only an adolescent? So baby steps, little things as the story goes on. Mandalorian, I don't know. It's just a bunch of action. I don't care anymore. So
watch it. Don't try ruin it for everyone who wants to have fun, though. I'm sorry that you hate fun. I'm sorry that you don't.
No,
like
we don't hate fun. We hate idiots.
Watch him.
We hate idiots like you because of people like you. The stuff we like is so dumbed down because it is enough. It is now enough to make it so bad, so dumb, because idiots like you consume it.
Who has a gun to her head?
That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy.
I want to know who has a gun to her head forcing her to watch Matt Walsh. I really do. Because nothing is stopping you from just hitting pause or changing the tab or going and watching your favorite show. Don't listen to Matt Walsh. It's that simple. I don't go, oh, Anita Sarkeesian ruined video games. Like, no, I don't. It's stupid. She didn't do a damn thing. She went to BioWare and said some stupid shit, and I don't think, who knows what the hell. BioWare's already screwed. It doesn't matter what she says.
The way Anita Sarkeesian did have an effect is by brainwashing a generation of activists that then got hired by these companies, and thereby these companies got infected with the toxicity of these activists that complain about all the toxicity in the company, which is only there because of them.
Possibly. I cannot see how she had any positive impact on anyone. And
positive? No. Of course not. It was not the intent.
And I don't think anyone.
Her intent was always the political scam. She gets money and gets to spread socialism. But she admitted that. She admitted that in an interview. I don't remember on which platform. You can probably find the article somewhere. Just do some search engine archive engine digging, where she admitted that it is not even about feminism, it is about socialism. Well, feminism itself is only the tool.
I don't think she did anything that would warrant us to say she's making me dislike video games. Like that's not how it works.
Yes, I agree.
So
but Matt Walsh is ruining Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's silly. Anyway.
I'm glad we still stuck at stop ruining my fun.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you hate him. I'm sorry that you hate fun. I'm sorry that you hate adventures. But like, go away. This isn't for you then, is it? You don't have to like everything. Just shut up.
It has the cinematic.
I hate when these assholes bring up this line, because assholes like her have been complaining about all our hobbies that we liked of not being politically correct the way that they wanted them. So it wasn't made for them. Now that all of this stuff has been warped, turned inside out, and appeals to these people, now we are supposed to go away if it's because it's not made for us. I just hate how asinine this is.
It's made for me because I like it. It's like, that's really? Are you sure about that? You're the demographic who never heard of anything from Star Wars until December of last year. It's like, okay.
It was so made for you that in your entire life you went without ever liking it. Wow.
Yeah.
You never got hooked to Star Wars, one of the biggest things in human history, especially in the Western world.
Anyway.
It certainly was made for you.
And even if Matt Walsh loved Star Wars previously, does that mean that those were made for Matt Walsh and now suddenly The Mandalorian wasn't? Like it's still Star Wars. It's not like Lower Decks from Star Trek, which is a complete stupid spin-off that has nothing to do with Star Trek aside from the setting. It's a comedy cartoon as opposed to a dramatic science fiction.
Yeah, I think this is the issue. The big movies of Disney Star Wars, they have these bombastic budgets and the failed writing, and they don't even have the right Star Wars tech. The stuff that Favreau and Filoni do is, at least from the looks, Star Wars. It has all the Star Wars expanded universe tech in there, like the all these other TIE fighter types, and all these other things that they introduced in the Clone Wars show. But aside from that superficial layer, there's not anything to grip. There's no. It's like trying to grasp at clouds.
Yeah, if anything, Favreau knows the lore of Star Wars very well, so he could create settings and characters that follow a certain logic, which is good. This is one of those times where he just dropped the ball for the sake of just doing something dumb, and I don't know why. It's just like, why did you do this episode?
And for the record, I don't agree with everything that Matt Walsh says. Oh God! But
yeah, who knows if he's good at even critiquing stories? I have no idea. I've never listened to his movie reviews.
Yeah, he.
Anyway, 7 minutes in. Let's keep going. We're not going to go through 24 minutes, guys. But I'm just saying, this lady is already a waste. She's not. She hasn't done any homework. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Quality mattress store commercial. Like the guy who made the ad for Bill's Mattress Warehouse down the street from your house is a more skilled director and cinematographer than whoever's responsible for this utter dreck.
What are you? How are you basing that off of like a 30-second fucking clip, bro? You're basing the cinematography and directing off of just a dialogue scene. Pull a dialogue scene from any movie
that is
like, and
enough.
tell me it's any better.
That is more. 30 seconds is way more than enough to determine the quality of a scene. 5 seconds would be just right. Visuals, sound, dialogue, delivery.
People
acting.
in casting, when you do the casting process, they don't get much more because there's 1,000 people up for that job potentially, at least in Hollywood.
Well, I don't think that's the problem.
And someone like Lizzo would never get through a casting process without her name to her.
Like Jack Black.
She's there because of her name.
He can act.
Not because she can do anything.
Yeah, Jack could act, but they give him dumb lines where he just sort of sits there and goes, and he rumbles around. Giving Lizzo all those lines where it's like, oh God, this is not good. That's not.
She's a typical fat woman with mental issues who thinks she can act but doesn't.
Yeah. Anyway,
she acts like a 6-year-old.
The scene is bad. The lines are bad. The delivery is bad. It's like, what more do you want? Oh, the setting looks good. The costumes look nice. It's like, sure.
Yeah, but this woman is incapable of comparing this to anything. Maybe because she doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
But also because she's incapable of actually making these comparisons.
Yeah, go.
She's blind.
Listen to King Lear or Macbeth and see how those people in royal positions talk outside of the language style, which is hundreds of years old. How they conduct themselves, how they carry themselves, how they walk and they talk and they sit and kill people and all that jazz. Then you
just look at Charles Dance in any role he's cast because he's typecast for exactly this type of role.
He is fantastic in all his roles. Exactly. I'm glad he's typecast. I want to see more of him.
I'm just waiting for her to say something that we can actually dig into.
I know.
Right now, we're still stuck back at, oh, it's not made for you. Stop taking away my fun.
Okay.
Than that. This is Star Wars. It's got a different vibe. It took me ages to get into the Star Wars universe because it didn't make sense to me. The whole style, everything.
By ages, you mean a few months?
Oh my god. That means, woman, that means it wasn't made for you. Because back then Star Wars made sense, and you're incapable of making sense if it's not as spoon-fed, low intelligence as The Mandalorian is.
Can you imagine going, The Mandalorian is peak Star Wars. That's the best Star Wars of Star Wars there is. It's like, really?
God.
That's the vibe? A nonsensical plot with a guy running around the galaxy collecting pieces of metal? That's Star Wars?
If you couldn't make sense of the OT, please just delete your YouTube channel. Just go away and I don't know, get a cat, get some plants and water them and just make sure you don't accidentally kill anyone.
Well, this is the argument of vibe, meaning feeling you get, which could be very subjective, if not.
It isn't. Mandalorian is incapable of creating a vibe.
Well, I'm sure there's some kind of feeling you get, but it has to be explained. You can't just say this is the vibe of episode 5, for example. It's a little different.
It's the sliver of a feeling. No, it's the sliver of a feeling. Mandalorian is like having on a late 90s screensaver on your computer.
Okay.
That's the level of engagement it produces.
All right. Here's the copper owl. Thank you, sir. I ain't leaving. Going to put my feet on the table. You do that, sir. Make sure you got nothing on your table so you're not leaving a mess there. As always, clean your room. But that's okay. Anyway, let's keep going, because apparently the vibe of Mandalorian is something that Matt Walsh does not get.
Everything about it was like very. Like the first movie I watched was like I had to go back and rewatch it after watching all of the other movies to fully appreciate it, because I just wasn't used to like the Star Wars style. It has a distinct vibe that if you don't watch it and you're not used to it, it's weird. This is what I expect. I don't really.
Yeah, it's not reality.
You hold up. The first movie her friend had her watch was Rogue One,
And you already fucked up.
and she's talking about getting the Star Wars feel when she started out with one of the least Star Wars movies.
I don't know where she's getting her comparison, which movie, because there's a lot of different tones in all the Star Wars films. They all have different themes. Having a guy leave his home and become a warrior, becoming a hero, discovering a family, losing a loved one, losing losing a mentor is in almost all the films. So there are some consistent themes, but the tones from 4 to 5 are very different.
Of course, her friend made her watch Rogue One first. That's what I didn't catch all of the her rambling, because it's all over the place. I have to decipher it, and maybe that's why she has to such problems deciphering things, because it's all scatterbrained inside her head. But if it was Rogue One, it makes sense that her friend showed it to her, because Rogue One has the strong female thing going, and it has the likable, redeemable rogue, the charming rogue love story as well. So I can see that it's very appealing to women in that sense.
But she's talking about vibe, and I'm like, what does that mean? If you could describe a vibe, that's a feeling. It's a very specific, like, let's say I watch Monster, the anime. That has a very sort of horror-esque thriller mystery vibe to it. I can describe it per episode, because every episode is slightly different and there's different plots. But I can say, okay, this is what this show is about, and this is what this show is about, and that show is about. It's not this general vibe, because it's mostly dark and bleak and I wouldn't say nihilistic, but it's just sort of gets to the bottom of this person that they're hunting down, trying to solve, trying to fix. And it feels almost hopeless at times. Yeah. Whereas Other anime is more upbeat. It's like, oh, it's a happy story.
Yeah, but Joshua Gonzalez in the chat says, it's not weird, it's from Akira Kurosawa. It's so recognizable that it transcends different filmmakers from different parts of the world.
That's a good point.
People in the chat say similar things. I think what her problem is on how to understand, but why she doesn't understand Star Wars, is simply the visual style with the sci-fi elements. And that's why she can't decipher what's going on the screen.
Yeah,
because that is not it's not your average soap opera in the modern day.
Yeah, I don't.
It has these different things happening.
I don't mind when reviewers can't describe exactly what they're trying to explain, but when you're saying all this stuff right out of the gate about Matt Walsh, and all you saying, well, Matt Walsh doesn't understand the vibe of Star Wars. Like, are you sure? He's way older than you. He's probably seen all 9 films. And he's a fan. Probably is a fan. I don't know. He has kids, so I'm assuming he has to watch these shows with his family. So
he can also be the type of conservative who hates video games because they make you violent.
Sure,
that nonsensical belief. While her nonsensical.
Understand.
Oh fucking hell!
Well, specifically, he thinks video games and cartoons are inherently childish and cannot tell adult stories.
Well, that's the fault of American media. Telling it that way, or at least the stuff that he knows. While her political side complains that video games and all of this stuff makes you sexist and racist and all of it. That puts her and Matt Walsh on pretty similar levels in regards to the I don't know, mental faculties. Matt Walsh is still more intelligent in most other areas, but this is a thing that conservatives and SJWs have in common, that they blame media for doing something that it simply doesn't.
Okay, we're at 8 minutes. We're going to go for another 4 because it's halfway through, and we already know she's not going to have anything of substance to throw at Matt, so let's go.
I don't know what your problem is.
This is what we get for mindlessly handing our money over to these studios who have been milking the same franchises for decades and just putting the same thing out over and over and over again. They aren't even trying anymore. They don't care. We already know that these studios hate you. They don't respect your intelligence. They think you're an idiot and will gobble up whatever they spew out.
Have you ever watched an episode?
He's not wrong, though.
He's correct on this. He's correct on the Mandalorian being that stupid. He's correct on Hollywood doing that in general.
I could have said this from the 90s on. This is nothing new. So pick any show. I'll explain the downfall of it. The past few years it's been on. It's like Star Trek is a great example of that. So when Gene Roddenberry left, all the creativity sort of focused in a certain direction. Yeah, the stories were more
focused.
Yeah, but look at season 2 of Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's chaotic. They're changing things. Some plots are amazing. Some plots are garbage. It's like there's this fight going on behind the scenes. There's props that are not being used or being reused. Like to me, that's fun. That's like, what are they going to do next week? I have no idea. With season 3 on, it's all sort of like, oh, okay, same uniform, same chairs, same sort of, okay, the Borg are here, blah, blah, blah. That's fine.
A lot more uniform.
Yeah, I mean, well, they did change the uniform every season, but very, very slightly compared to the first 2. So even the plots are more, I wouldn't say consistent, but they're more or less, okay, here's a military one. Here's the one where we save the guy. Here's the silly one. Here's the one with Barkley. It's very easier to consume. It's not as exciting. You watch season 2, it is like, wow. You're going to love it or hate it. It's just like some episodes you'll love and some you'll hate. I think that's the season with the racist, the worst, supposedly one of the, I think Masks was the worst episode, but the one with the badge of honor or something of honor, code of honor. That's the one with the supposedly racist undertones, where Tasha Yar had to fight a death match with some black culture. So anyway,
I didn't find the episode as bad as it's made out to be.
It's really not. It's really not. If you're left leaning, you'll think it's the worst thing in the world. But if you're just a guy who likes science fiction, you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the woman to do the death match,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
she won it.
And-
so what are you complaining about?
And they use technology to save the day as a science fiction story should. So I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, here's the Copper Owl again. Star Wars is Mobius, Samurai, Westerns, WW2,
World War
Greedo
II.
puns. Yeah, that's a good way of summarizing all those inspirations. I would say the Bhagavad Gita is a good inspiration, but you're describing pretty much all of them anyway. And Star Wars is a lot of things, a lot of people. And to put one vibe, I would just say space opera. I always say space opera is it's an amalgamation of melodramatic concepts in a futuristic setting. And that already gives you, it's like when you watch an episode of Babylon 5, when you play Mass Effect 1, you have this certain feeling of, oh, the world is huge. It's gigantic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting a little slice of it in this very interesting place.
And there's fleshed out things behind everything.
There's layers within.
That's what you
layers.
get.
Exactly.
You get these hints. You get these hints of things about all these other cultures, about what's going on in the galaxy, and it leaves enough room for you to interpret that as there being this vast lore behind it all.
Whereas
and
Star Wars,
the Mandalorian,
okay.
the modern Star Wars,
Oh.
old Star Wars had that. Modern Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, doesn't, because it spells everything out as much as possible, leaving no room for interpretation, no room for your mind to wander, and just does the most basic plot ideas possible with no meat to the bone.
Yeah, and you look
That's nothing.
Why-
And it goes to all the same places all the time.
I was going to say why they keep going to the same places like Tatooine or the Cantina. That's where you get all this stuff thrown at you, all these aliens, all these settings, all this crazy, whimsical, almost like you're at Mardi Gras, like you don't know what's around that corner. What's that alien doing? Oh my God, it has two heads. It's breathing through its mouth, like what, it's talking through its nose. Like what is that? Like that's part of the charm of Star Wars. It's so diverse and crazy and old.
I'm going to quote Smut from an earlier Smudcast on this topic.
Sure.
Star Wars is a soap opera at heart, like it's an epic, and as such, you need a lot of props. It doesn't need to be high quality, but you should have a lot of props. There always needs to be something happening so that the viewer is entertained. However, these things are only as deep as they look.
Yes.
You keep moving on, because if you stay there for too long, you're going to realize that, hey, that thing doesn't really go anywhere, like R2-D2. That's the reason why they just kind of offhandedly put things into him, because they didn't actually plan out where the USB drive is on this thing, where the dust cover is or whatnot. So when they suddenly do that in episode 9, it looks fucking weird, because they suddenly decide to go, hey, this is no longer something that was, a side gig to get the plot going. No, we're going to put the camera right there and show you how it's done. Whereas that was always been, okay, look, there's a little black droid running around. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's like, oh, there's a little gunk droid over there walking around very slowly. What's it? Oh, it's a walking battery. But you don't need to know that, and you should know that, because the plot needs to keep moving.
Yeah, one of the great examples of that is when they get, because it's always been about grit and realism and all this detail of the settings and the props. Like if you look at the lightsaber when is episode 5 or 6 where Luke is has a wrench or a screwdriver and he's like doing something with it. It's like, what the heck is he doing? What is he fixing? What is he cleaning? Like it doesn't matter, because he's not actually doing anything believable, which is fair because they do that in Star Trek as well. But they explain, oh, I'm using this tool to do this thing to fix that thing, this problem. Whereas you just see Luke taking apart his lightsaber and putting it back together, you're like, was there a problem? Like what happened? So there's the idea of detail, but it's only surface level. It's like having an ocean that's a foot deep. It's very, very. There's not much to it if you delve into it. That's why when you go to the EU, writers tried to give it more, and then you get into the games, and then KOTOR, and then they got KOTOR 2, where they got good writers to flesh out the inherent problems with the conflict between the good and evil, which anyone who studies Eastern philosophy goes, this would not work when you think about it. That the whole idea of the Sith would not last. The Jedi would not last. Even the philosophy of the Jedi that people love, which sounds good until you think about it for about 5 minutes and going, yeah, the morals and ethics of the Jedi don't really cannot last that long if they don't go to war. Look at we have with the monks from ancient China. They got involved in wars constantly, and there are these Shaolin monks who were supposedly not part of any monarchy or not helping the politicians or not taking money because they're monks. They're good and honorable and they meditate. And it's like, yeah, and then they're called to fight in wars and they kill people because they're superior at fighting. So obviously the politicians would ask them to do that for them. They'd pay them.
The old canon tried to patch that up with stories such as Grievous, whose entire race essentially was wiped out by the Jedi because the race that had been hacking away at Grievous's population. Suddenly when Grievous had led his clan to victory, or close to victory, the fucking buck bastards went to the Jedi going, please, we're getting genocided, help us! And the Jedi like, well, we're sworn to keep up the peace, so better genocide Grievous's race.
Yeah, and that's part of the setting and design of KOTOR, is this Jedi who says, no, I'm going to save people. And in order to do so, I have to use emotion and use violence to do so, and then becomes this supreme gray Jedi who is the strongest Force user ever, and then that's followed up with the aftermath of picking up the pieces in KOTOR 2, which I think is even a superior plot because of that aftermath. Imagine that there was no KOTOR 1. That would be even a greater setup because then you're allowed to fill in the blanks. But KOTOR 1 was great, did a good job, and KOTOR 2 played with the philosophy and the problems of that philosophy, which is why we have the character of Kreia, which to me is the best, I'd say the best female in all of video gaming, not because of the video game, but because of the way they wrote her. Anyway, we are having way too much fun talking about interesting things about Star Wars.
That she has never heard about.
And she never will. And she never will, I'm sure, because she's not a real fan, unfortunately. So, anyway, 8 minutes and a half in. Yeah, we're going to try another 2 minutes. I really doubt we're going to get much out of her if we keep going for more than 5. So.
Watched Star Wars. I'm really confused as to where this is. How are you making this entire... How are you making this entire fucking 6.5 minute video? That's why it's only 6.5 minutes, because you watched 30 seconds of this episode and you've only seen 30 seconds of this show. How are you making this entire argument of like Star Wars is overdone, they're feeding you the same thing over and over, it's all shit, they think you're idiots? How are you doing that based off of
He's older than you, he's seen more than you, he knows what works and what doesn't. It's very simple.
And there's already been 3 seasons of that.
How are you making a 6-minute video based on a 30-second clip? How do you spend 24 minutes edited on a 6-minute clip? How are we spending an hour on your boring ass? I don't know. Maybe that's how reaction works.
Yeah.
I think that her plushies are all smug, cute things with predatory vibes is telling everything we need to know.
That's a good psychological look at interpreting her plushies. But for me, I said this before we started the stream, the hair color, the tattoos, the openly gay vibe she's giving. You don't need to express these things. You just say exactly.
She's a very superficial person because she can't think deeper. It's not that if she could think deeper, I do believe that she wouldn't sit here like this saying these things, but she is limited in her comprehension.
Yeah, that would require actual logic and time, which she doesn't seem to care. She just keeps pumping out videos, and people like it, so she keeps doing it. She makes more money, and that's sad. We're attracted to her voice and her face. That's all I get out of this.
Are we?
That's all.
I'm distracted by her flamingo earrings.
Oh God, really? I didn't notice that.
That whose legs make fours, and it's why?
Now you notice them, and now you can't unnotice them.
I don't care. It's okay. Anyway.
You do care.
About earrings, if they're tacky, not really. Not really, no. If they're beautiful, then I don't care. Anyway.
30-second clip of dialogue at the end of an episode. You don't know what you're fucking talking about, bro. You don't know what you're talking about. Every single Star Wars show, very, very different. Like, The Mandalorian and
Oh, wait a second. I thought you said they all had the same vibe.
But they're very, very different at the same time.
Interesting.
Extremely different shows, and they give us extremely different content, and they're very different from their other shows and from the movies as well. They
all have blasters, they all have spaceships, they all have the Empire in some regard, they all have droids. Some of them have lightsabers, some of them have Jedi and Sith, but
some have AK-47s.
Yeah, I mean, we've just described every Star Wars ever. The basic themes are all the same, visually, conceptually, in conflict. They're all pretty much. I said that some of them have different themes, yeah, but for the most part, they copied 4, 5, and 6, or 4 and 5 from JJ and Rian. They tried to do that. 1, 2, and 3, same idea. You have the death of a teacher. You have the growth of a hero. The plot ends up different at the ending, but it's pretty much the same high concept of action adventure with spaceships and wizards running around. So, yeah, I don't know. I
think I've met people similar to her, and that's why I said she's limited in her comprehension with her, how she didn't understand the vibe of Star Wars or the look or what's happening, because it's using sci-fi props instead of real world props. And those were people who were incapable of making comparisons.
Yes,
so
I think you're right, because we talk about what happened to New Trek and the vibe and the feeling and the look and sound of Discovery and Picard. It's like, this is Star Trek? Why is everything dark and bleak and nihilistic? What's going on? And people still watch it because it's Star Trek. And it's like, no, it's not. So people are really big in nostalgia. And I don't know if is New Trek an alternate dimension? I don't know if it's a different timeline or whatever. But we've had the movies from the Kelvin timeline, which were different.
I think it's just all bad fan fiction.
It's basically
pseudo fan fiction.
It's reinterpreting what Gene Roddenberry laid out, and we're trying to wrap our brains like, how does this fit? Who are these characters? The names are the same. Klingons aren't Klingons anymore, and it's some other world it's bad fan fiction. That's what it boils down to. Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea of science fiction is not just having bombastic scenes on the screen with big explosions and spaceships shooting things at each other. Science fiction is just like every really great story about the exploration of an idea, of philosophical problems, of, especially in science fiction, of what if there's this technology, how does this affect society, or how problems and relations play out, because this new technology changes how all of that works.
I always
and New Trek doesn't do that.
I always like the philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Science fiction's job was our job in science fiction, rather, to ascend to the light. We're uplifting humanity and bringing it into a new realm that we didn't think was possible. That it's not just. I always make the argument between science fiction and sci-fi. Star Trek is science fiction. Giant bug movies are sci-fi. You can have fun. It's great. Mandalorian's definitely sci-fi. Star Wars is mostly sci-fi. There are some dramatic ideas and things that uplift you, I'm sure. But again, it's surface level. You're not supposed to think about it. It's to make you think about what it means to be a hero. What does it mean to you to sacrifice yourself? What does it mean to be good? When Luke throws away that lightsaber, it's like, holy shit, what are you doing? Stuff like that. And of course, the twists and turns of normal storytelling, like a plot reveal, like your dad is the villain. That's normal.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's all symbolic. It's fantasy stories, but with tech props.
Okay. Yeah, this is not a person to talk about with those ideas. She's not well read. Anyway, 90 minutes and a quarter.
Or well watched.
Well, yeah, well, that. Who knows?
All separate writers, they're all different directors. They're all very separate things, and they are not giving you the same story. It's not being remade. They're just giving us new content. People like universes. People like being a part of this universe and learning more about the story. It's a very big, complex.
Yeah, keep consuming product. Get excited for next product. That's exactly what you said.
The problem with Star Wars is that it gets all reduced to that one story when you have a galaxy to explore. Like Mandalorian could have had its own exploration of Star Wars. Instead, it's just another tie-in to the main plot line. And I've brought up this example. You could easily make a standalone movie or miniseries that solely plays on Nar Shaddaa as a noir detective thing.
Yeah, I've heard.
You only stay on Nar Shaddaa. There's way too much there by itself that you can just, in this classic Star Wars way, go over it, hint at, and let the audience's fantasy go wild about the background interpretation.
I've heard the same. Well, this is like a decade ago. I've heard the same idea from Mass Effect fans. They just wanted a Citadel Knights concept, where you play as Garrus, or you're some CSEC you're some lowly guy on the Citadel. Because the Citadel's a massive place where just crimes happen and you have to go solve them. That's it. Just give us the world, let us explore in it and have fun. And people wanted the same idea with another Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. They never got it. And that's sad because it's a huge world and people are still going to buy the next game, if it lasts that long. I doubt it. Because it's popular. They want the setting. They don't care about storytelling quality. They care about, I like Asari and I like Garrus peoples and all the guns they have. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah, but that got hooked because the initial stuff was written on an at least okay level.
Yeah,
if
but
that had been written on a shit level, like the later stuff, then it wouldn't have gotten hooked in the first place.
Yeah, but it's no different than, let's say, what they're doing with Tatooine on every other Star Wars episode of whatever Disney Plus show they've got. It's like,
you mean Desert Planet 2 and Desert Planet 3?
300 more like.
All right, random question on the topic of giving a shit about the franchise. Did you guys ever read the Star Wars Bounty Hunter novel?
No.
The little handbook guide they had, alongside the Path of Jedi and the Path of the Sith and the Imperial Handbook.
I haven't touched it.
No, I seriously only had read the stuff that my brother had bought back in the day, which was all the game stuff that had back in the day manuals of video games. They had short stories in them and everything for background lore and such. And I think one Han Solo novel.
Oh, you guys missed out.
I have the Thrawn books on the shelf. They come. I'll read them at some point. After I was told that is some bad shit good stuff in Star Wars. And the only way I remember him is as a background character in the TIE Fighter game.
The reason I bring up the Bounty Hunter stuff is obviously one, because Mandalorian, and two, if the directors had actually read this stuff, like actually known this stuff, you know where Mando would probably be constantly returning to for new bounties?
Tell us.
The giant ghosting net. A giant spider web made by a race called the Assemblers that just flies around space. That passively picks up bounties around the galaxy.
Whoa.
Which is the heart of the entire bounty hunter system in Star Wars.
Well, I've never heard of this. That sounds like a different sci-fi setting.
Yeah.
This is where all the fucking bounties come from. If there's a bounty, it ends up in the net, and the assemblers then sells them to bounty hunters.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, that's something that expands Star Wars.
Yeah, no, even the Star Trek novels, which I thought were pretty corny, they blew up some of the lore that was not in the show. Like what's the word? Oh, Imzadi. That was the special name the Betazoids tell or give to their one they're going to marry, which is like the beloved. And they made 2 books on that, of the relationship between Troy and Riker. So that was great. They did other things I really liked, but it's still melodrama. It's nothing special because they don't do that in the show because they have to keep going with the next episode, which is a totally different plot line. So the actors get older, so they got to give them relationships like Troy dating Worf, which doesn't make any sense. But anyway, let's keep going.
So much to fill in. There's so much information missing because there's like decade gaps in between everything. So it's cool. I like getting all this new information. I like having more background. I like knowing more characters. I like having more information filled in about this universe and this like time. Like right now I said I'm watching The Bad Batch, and I think it's really cool to now be able to watch, the rise of the Empire, because that's kind of a thing that was skipped over. Watching the rise and fall and everything happening in the middle, I really love that. And I love seeing
that the prequels. That's what the prequels are about. The Bad Batch is literally within the Empire. It's not the build-up to the Empire. It is within the Empire.
Did she even? We don't even know if she watched the prequels. So, yeah.
Well, she said she watched all the movies.
She said she watched movies.
Yeah.
Whether that entails all of them, I don't know.
Anyway,
to me, it sounds like she's going through it backwards from release order.
This is the problem with this kind of style. She hasn't planned out her... Well, I don't think she's planned a thing out, but if she were, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So, it's off the cuff. She might have some notes, but other than that, she's just ranting.
Being like new characters and people who are just living their lives and stuff, I think it's cool. You don't have to like it, but I do.
They know you're going to watch anyway because...
we don't have
That's
to.
all it is.
Wait a second. Is she just recanting everything she just said?
Yeah. So now we don't have to like it. But criticizing is not allowed because that ruins your fun.
Yeah, let's try this again.
You realize the weaknesses of it?
The rise of the Empire, because that's kind of a thing that was skipped over. Watching the rise and fall and everything happening in the middle, I really love that. And I love seeing like new characters and side characters and people who are just living their lives and stuff. I think it's cool. You don't have to like it, but I do.
They know you're going to watch anyway.
Okay. So what's wrong with Matt Walsh saying he doesn't like this random scene with random people that came out of nowhere?
You can like it, but I like it. Or you can hate it, but I like it. That's a good attitude to have, but you call him, what was it, sexist, racist, fatphobe?
Because he's conservative, therefore bad. Oh my god.
I still remember from the first season, the episode in the swamp with the ATST that looked at the painting of the concept art of it. That looked like a really, really amazing image. And the entire episode was written around of how do we get to that image. And it was crap because that's how it was laid out. They wanted to get to the goal no matter what. And on the way there, they therefore had to ignore so many issues that it was just plot hole after plot hole, illogical action after illogical action. And that is bad writing. That is horrible. That breaks the immersion to anyone with more than 2 brain cells. And it's done. It's done at that point.
Hey, long as you got an end goal in mind, people will still sit their asses down and watch through it, even if it's boring as hell. You'll still get Vinland Saga.
Oh boy. That's still ongoing.
Yeah, and it's boring as hell, but people will still watch through it because it's gonna get better at some point.
The vengeance is over yet? No.
The main character's gonna get good, guys, in a season.
Oh.
And 12 episodes.
Alright, anyway. 2 minutes
Can't
left.
be worse than Attack on Titan.
Oh. Well.
I was not saying it was bad, I was saying it's boring.
Okay, anyway.
Like real life.
Let's go.
Because the brand, that's all it is.
Yeah, because people like Star Wars. It's because of the brand. It's because people like the universe. People like the stories. People like the characters. People like like I said, there's nothing really like it. It's
So it's good because it's Star Wars? That's your argument. Fantastic.
People hate Rey because she's shit. People hate Rose Tico because she's shit.
People hate the sequels in general.
Because they're shit.
Matt Walsh does not like the scene with Lizzo and Jack Black because it's a bad scene with bad acting and bad lines.
That episode is a good example of Disney Star Wars. It's shit. With shit characters that don't fit into Star Wars. That thing was like some loosely glued onto Star Wars.
Well, the problem with Star Wars and all the costume design, it's already up in the air. Like, you don't know what planet they're from, what culture they're from, what fabric they're using. It's just like, is he a soldier? Is he a general? Is he a monarch? Is he just the right hand of the queen? Like, I don't understand.
And it's Star Wars has this for a galaxy. It is strangely monocultural.
Yeah, the Empire's everywhere. It spans the entire, or the Republic rather, if you want to talk about the previous iteration. It's huge.
Yeah, even when it throughout the vast expanded lore, it fractures over and over again. Still, what we get now on screen is every planet is culturally the same nondescript thing. There's not really any feeling of these are different places anymore.
All right.
Star Wars, separate thing. It has its own sort of vibe and its own feel. It's its own thing. You can't really create that anywhere else because it's not this universe.
Yes, you can. It's called space opera. It's an entire genre of an amalgamation of ideas set in the future or in a futuristic setting. Why can't you? I can do that with The Fifth Element. I can do that with Farscape. I can do that with definitely Star Trek.
Princess of Mars.
You can do it with any science fiction or sci-fi or subgenre thereof. You really can. We can make a pitch. Well, it won't work. We can make a pitch to Paramount and say, we want to do our own sci-fi. Here's what we do. We have planets, they're aliens, and they have spaceships, and they got laser guns. And some people are telekinetic, some people are telepathic, and there's a plague. We got to solve the plague, or else humanity dies. Boom! What is it? Babylon 5's Crusade spinoff. It was popular for a year. Actually, it wasn't that popular. It wasn't that good.
Wasn't Star
everything
Wars
beyond the actual series was kind of a dud.
Yeah.
Wasn't Star Wars supposed to be a Flash Gordon adaptation originally?
Yeah.
Was strongly inspired by it.
Yeah, it's.
I think George wanted the license but didn't get it. One of those stories.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in the chat we had examples of being a Western by the what the hell is it? The classic John. I can't remember the director who made all those Western films. Samurai, Kurosawa films, and I always say Bhagavad Gita just because the story is very similar. And I don't know about World War II outside of the costume design of the Empire.
And that's the skin over it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the costume design, it's the weapon design, it's a lot of the aesthetics combined with random piping and other stuff that we talked about earlier about catching the eye, being very distinct because it's a bunch of garbage you threw together on top of props that were relatively cheap in the bargain bin.
The industrial grit. What is it called? Not minimalism, but it's that same idea of not Soviet design. Is it Soviet or is it? I can't remember. This sort of pale, concrete color covering everything. It's this concept.
Soviet bloc?
I don't know the exact term for architecture, but it's something along those lines. So it's very, very simplified. So. Yeah, no, and it's all gritty and dirty and feels real because it's like, oh yeah, the desert. How would you do that with technology? That's how
chat brings up lived in a world. That sounds about right.
Yes, that's good enough. So
and that's where you need to take care in the set design, and that's something that Star Trek deliberately doesn't have. Star Trek is deliberately sterile.
Yeah, this is weird because she's arguing in general, whereas Matt Walsh is saying this is a bad scene, and because it's bad, Star Wars has been bad for years and years, and he's right, even though he's not explaining that. And she's going, no, Star Wars is great. It's got all this stuff. And you're like, yes, in theory, but in execution, we've seen it the past 10 years being crap.
Yeah, we've known the good Star Wars. She doesn't. And she doesn't know the difference. Because she only sees the superficial elements of, oh, look, there is the R2 everywhere.
Yeah.
Look, there's the 3PO everywhere. So it's all Star Wars. Like, no, the current stuff is an imitation of Star Wars that has, for horrible reasons of how reality, how business works, the official stamp on it.
And her vibe.
But just because you have the official stamp doesn't mean that the product you sell is actually the real thing.
Yeah.
If it's because you got the official stamp in order to sell a watered down product with a changed recipe. It's not the same thing. It's technically product fraud.
And her interpretation of the feeling or vibe of Star Wars is somehow ubiquitous and all throughout the entire shows and movies, and also uniquely distinct and different. You're like, oh, okay. That makes sense. Anyway, minute and a half left.
You know, they have a whole different universe that they are building. No one else can do that. So yeah, it is.
Yes, they can.
Instead of
It's
watching,
called the EU. They did it and then they threw it away. So it happened.
And now they just copy all the stories from it.
And now they're bringing
the
it
next
back because
Star
they're
Wars
dumb.
movie or show, you might as well sit for 2 hours in your living room staring at the Star Wars logo on your screen. You know, there's no point in watching the actual.
I will agree with him.
That's a good point.
Because that, if you are an original Star Wars fan of all the good stuff, and you just look at the Star Wars logo for 2 hours, your mind will go places and come up with its own Star Wars stories that are way more engaging and interesting than the stuff Disney is creating nowadays.
Story anymore. That doesn't matter.
Shut up, dude. So many people tried to say that about this fucking show. Okay, so The Mandalorian still does have a story. I think people have forgotten that this is how TV used to be. Every episode is its own little story, and it has like little hints for the next.
Okay, we're done. She's so dumb. I'm sorry.
Episode and for the previous
She's
episode.
trying to
That's what
describe
TV
episodic
used to be.
storytelling.
It's one like short little movie that you can sit down, you can put on your TV, and you can watch it. If you're like scrolling through channels, you've never
Wow, you could watch stuff on the TV. That's great.
seen an episode of The Mandalorian before. It comes on, you can watch.
No, the problem of The Mandalorian is that the episodic writing is shit. Individual episodes are shit. They're written like the crappy beginner mistake shows from the Clone Wars.
I didn't know you could just turn on your TV and watch shows. It's amazing.
Well, here's the thing, Whisp. I don't agree with that. People shit on the season 1 episodes and then don't include the writers that are responsible for those first few episodes of this first season. Most of the people that wrote the first season episodes are the people that are wrecking the entire franchise now.
Oh, really?
Remember Rookies? The episode where they're out the outpost and they get infiltrated by the Sith forces? And these newbies are just stuck here, having to wait for rescue by Rex?
It was a long time ago I watched the Clone Wars.
Alright, big guy with minigun shoots a bunch of droids, ends up suiciding himself at the end of the episode to avoid the station falling into enemy hands, whilst the rest of his friends run away. That's the end of the episode, and it's one of the probably best episodes out of season 1, written by the same guy. I believe it was that wrote the episode with, what's it called, Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul in Rebels, so don't quote me on that. Point being, that guy is very consistent in high quality writing, but funny enough, none of the other screenwriters that are attached to those episodes on their own produce anything of value.
Yeah, so the first season, the problem of the first season is that it's qualitatively all over the place, mostly the second is as well. And there are things that stand out positively as well, and lots negatively. And I have the same criticism about the early seasons of DS9, that have these. You have these high spikes and you have these very low spikes. the consistency in the Clone Wars comes later. But the first stuff, it's not even chronologically in the right order. It's all at random. And the thing that stands out in the Clone Wars in the first, I think it's in the first season, is the Jar Jar Binks episode, where the quality of the entire episode in the text, in textures, in lighting, shadows, everything is just in the cellar. It looks like nobody wanted to work on this, and it's deliberately bad. And the characters, including Padme, are relieved when it looks like Jar Jar got eaten by a fish monster. Like, oh, he's gone. Okay, I'm just gonna leave.
You're referring to Bombard Jedi,
and it's so there's a joke in that episode that really no one liked Jar Jar.
They kept the story going with Jar Jar being invincible almost.
Yeah, and people are when he turns out to be alive after all, it's relief, but also, oh fuck, he's still alive. It's this mixed bag that you can see. It's just these little hints on how the faces are animated. But yeah, the Clone Wars has these ups and downs a lot. And my issue is that later Disney Star Wars keeps running with the bad writing of the Clone Wars. That's my critique about Rebels was that Clone Wars by the end got really, really good, really well written. The beginning of Rebels has the same beginner mistakes that the Clone Wars had all over again. And then at the end you get this peak with Obi-Wan and Darth Maul.
Well, arguably peaks with Ahsoka and Anakin, which was so good they stole it for the Obi-Wan series.
Wasn't that the season 7 of Clone Wars that they made?
No,
later?
that was Rebels, where Ahsoka fights Darth Vader, and she cuts the helm, and she hears Anakin's unfiltered voice.
Oh, the thing where she's brought back through time, or saved through time later on. So, oh no, that's where she dies, and later on she's gotten through. That was such a mess.
Yep, but that was such a good reveal that they reused it for Obi-Wan. Because I realized, oh, that's a massive missed opportunity. Let's do that with Obi-Wan now.
Yeah, and that's how you cheapen it, because it just shows that you're crappy at your job. When you have to steal from your other parts of the franchise to just redo the same thing over and over again, then we just get to Ghost in the Shell levels of redo the iconic scene. Every time.
Do the scene where she throws herself up a building again.
Do the scene where she rips at something to open it and instead rips out her arm.
All right.
Do the scene where she jacks her cable into something violently.
Let's keep on going. We're almost done, guys. We call it an evening. Here's the Copper Owl for one more super chat. The art was inspired by Mobius Comics Retro Future. I'm trying to remember Mobius Comics. I don't think I know them. Maybe it was something in the 70s? I don't recall, yeah. I'm not that old, but, I'll have to Google that and find out. Anyway, 11 minutes, 20 seconds we're in. Let's go for one more minute and take a break.
This episode of TV used to be. It's one, short little movie that you can sit down, you can put on your TV, and you can watch it. If you're, scrolling through channels, you've never seen an episode of The Mandalorian before, it comes on, you can watch it and enjoy it, even though you've never seen another
I highly doubt that, but okay.
episode before.
With
which is cool.
show,
we
no.
don't have any TV like that anymore. But anyone could watch that and enjoy it.
We don't have any episode of anymore.
There is no episodic TV. There's no Gallivants. Nothing.
There's no police procedurals that have random episodes every week where a new criminal is introduced and a new plot line. Like Law and Order is not a thing anymore. There's no
reruns of all the old shit.
There's no murder mysteries playing in the UK now on streaming services. Even we have local TV that has all kinds of random episodes of dumb shows in Canada. That
Doctor Who kept going back to the episodic thing.
Yeah, exactly. This is a common pattern in popular shows, whether they're Doctor Who or long-going ones that have been on for a few years or a decade. No, this is, if you don't like science fiction, you scroll to The Mandalorian, you're not going to watch it just because it's episodic. That's silly. That's not how it works. You don't just flip through Netflix or Disney Plus and go, oh wow, laser guns and robots. I can't wait to watch the thing I never watch because it's episodic.
Mm-hmm. I will remain on the position that the only good Mandalorian episode was the very first one.
Enjoyed that. Have to have watched the rest of the show. You don't have to have seen anything of Star Wars to have watched that and enjoyed that. Whereas with a lot of other shows, you can't come into it with no context. It doesn't work. You can't just click on an episode of a show and.
Okay, so Star Trek.
Well, that's very strange. She's contradicting herself because she said she didn't understand Star Wars.
Well,
So how would you have understood Star Wars at first if you couldn't understand the standalone episodes of The Mandalorian?
and if she's never watched it, why would she be interested in clicking and then staying on the program for more than a few minutes? Or maybe a few seconds. Like, who knows what her interests were before Star Wars? Does she like
Yeah, I didn't get the interested into sci-fi with laser guns vibe from her.
I don't know what vibe. I'm pretty much. She's pretty much a black box. I have no idea what she's into.
Like heaven. And like, there's nothing wrong with that.
She's
and
into-
it did aid in the overarching
she's into
story.
cutesy
Fucking
emotional
Bo-Katan
stuff.
got the darksaber at the end. This
There's an overarching story? Or is it episodic? Which one?
story moving towards the Mandalorians all coming together and then like working to get their home planet back. That's where they're working towards. They just had to go on a little side quest this episode to go get it. And a few episodes back.
Wait,
Alright, we are officially at the halfway point, and now I can say thank fuck, this woman doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. I have been following The Mandalorian Season 3 for about a month now. It is such a convoluted mess. Holy shit, every single episode gives hints, little tiny mouse bites of a wider story, and the rest are fucking side quest to side quest to side quest.
And the
One of
wider
which-
story is absolutely bland.
One of which includes having to dig up the grave of a robot that committed the self-end. And they somehow recovered the surviving bits of a robot that was built to melt its own components when it suicided so that enemies could not recover the bits and get its black box. Somehow they recovered enough components of it to get it back together. But not the actual character, mind. That was gone.
But thank God for that.
Yes, thank fucking God they didn't get him back. Instead, they get a completely brainless, empty husk of a robot and put the baby in there so it can go to war with them, and it has a little yes and no button.
Mech. It's a baby carrier mech. This is so stupid.
This is worse than the Star Wars Christmas specials.
Yes. And it was, I will say, it was so promising. The first episode of this show, the very, very first episode, season 1, was so promising of going into this little words ever spoken, like show don't tell, silent Western bounty hunter thing, where you just tell everything visually, make impactful little scenes, like what was it? Once Upon a Time in the West. You have lots of scenes with barely ever a word spoken, but the world is just so big. The emotion is so heavy in every scene.
All right.
And the first episode of The Mandalorian had that, and after that, it's just thrown it out.
All right, we're going to go to stream memes because we're done. This is a picture of a clown from Joe Crazy. How does anyone dye their hair rainbow and not expect to look like this? I don't know, but this is what I see when I think of Vosh. So it's not really a visual of Vosh having to color his hair. It just, this is the general image.
It's the image of his soul.
Yeah.
A predatory clown.
I don't know why Gigaman's posting this, but I don't want to taste the rainbow. Thank you, Gigaman.
I keep thinking that the header is just eventually seeping through the skull.
Ladies, if you don't want to date fat men, then you are fat phobic. Oh my god, what the heck am I looking at?
Oh god, that's a hell of a fat bastard.
I think this is the anime Wisp mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
That's cute.
It's for little girls, and it has it has actually emotionally gripping episodes with morals to it, where you have, and if you want to talk, we talked about this as the female hero's journey. That's basically the variant of that, where it's a blue girl sacrifices her own well-being in order to help a guy she likes who can't know that she did this for him.
Here is a
meme. Beautiful.
From Legion. Love is love. Why don't you support us? Water is water. Why don't you drink from the toilet? Who radicalized you? No one. I'm just a normal person from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that one before. It's good. The last one is from Cyberfrog. Star Wars Disney. Instead of listening to what people want, you're telling them what they want. Well, yeah, pretty much. It's weird. Disney's weird. And the quality is all over the place, sadly. It's not... Not the way
for anyone who remembers that episode, that is the long-lost brother of Homer Simpson. He runs a super successful car company, and then he let Homer design a car that was absolutely horrible, and it bankrupted him.
$82,000 it cost it.
All right. Well,
I'm sure a Tesla costs more today.
I'm not sure. They actually brought some prices down for some of the cars. Anyway, that was, I guess, the Queer Kiwi or just the Kiwi. I don't know what to call her. So
the Qiwi.
Yeah, she was pretty vapid. That was pretty sad. And I would not even call her a fan of
anything.
Well, maybe she could like a show and she could talk about it. But if that's a defense from a fan, then The Mandalorian is already a horrible show by virtue of listening to her.
Yeah. I think she can only be a fake thing of anything she's into, because when you are stuck at this superficial level where it's only about this very surface level and the name dropping of things at best, and I'm not even sure she did that, then you don't actually care about it.
The majority of her content is about sex or her sexuality, which to me is the most derivative, shallow. I mean, why? Can you imagine if I had a channel talking about what I like in bed? Like, that's retarded. That's dumb.
Oh, what makes you special is what you like to hum. Wow, wonderful.
Wow,
let's make a 30-minute video or 30-minute long video about which fleshlight we prefer from which brand. Ugh.
You could technically still make a customer support quality control product review thing about that.
Sure, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to know about that.
I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to even entertain that thought. Shame on you, Wisp. Shame.
Her real channel is like pro-life TikTok gives me a migraine. You're like, what? Pro-life? What the hell is pro-life TikTok?
Straight, are you okay?
Girl defends book is worse than I feared. Like, this is English. She's writing as if she doesn't know how to type, and it's all lowercase. There's no grammar. Masculinity was fragile in 2022?
Not like the other gays.
The wild stories of historical gay nuns.
I wonder how those stories ended.
Should we tell her about the secret tunnels between monk and nun monasteries where they secretly had sex and then buried the children resulting from that in the catacombs?
Oh, fun.
And how that, well, actually, let's not get into that.
I was about to say, how sweet up until the childbearing.
Well, several plagues started as a result of these fornications.
Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty much happy with not covering her ever again. I don't think she has anything reasonable to say or intelligent.
For a crazy brainwashed leftist, she is surprisingly boring.
I'm not even sure I'd put her in the world of leftists. Just dumb.
She's a useful idiot.
Yeah, useful.
She's ideologically possessed without even realizing
like with
the slightest hint of it.
Like with Maggie, she's so far gone that she puts her own spin on things because she's crazy. This person's like, I believe in X, Y, and Z, and you're like, why? I like it.
And she's just wearing the leftist brand. She is just get excited for political brand.
Yeah, Maggie,
my side is good, your side is dumb for not liking my side.
Yeah, Maggie is creative and creepy. She's just boring. I guess. I don't know how to describe her. I really don't care. Either way. Anyway.
Maybe it's the medication that makes her boring.
That could explain a few things.
Maybe that's good.
Stopping her from being crazier. I don't know. Who knows? Either way, we're done with her. I guess we could blacklist her. I don't think anyone's going to bring up anything else she has to say.
I don't think she's worthy of blacklisting.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to.
She could still have a shining example of utter interesting crazy nonsense.
Yeah. It's possible, but not with her current format. It's just
but I'm not gonna. I don't want to blacklist her outright. We think we reserve that for just absolutely people who have proven their absolute evil and such things.
Yeah. Well, either way, I thank you guys for spending the 2 hours of listening to this. Wonderful.
Oh, fuck, this was 2 hours. Oh, that's 2 hours we'll never get back.
You know how time flies here?
The defense of the Mandalorian from Matt Walsh. Oh, no. So thank you for the suggestion. Hopefully get some more fun ones tomorrow or whatever you want to do, guys, tomorrow or the weekend. And we will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye now.
Goodbye.
Until next time.
Night.
Oh, I just